Timo! Hi. Welcome to the CovertGoBlue podcast. Welcome back to the CovertGoBlue podcast.
The congested GoBlue podcast for today.
Yes,
you and I are both not feeling it.
We are 100% taking on what I guess is the spring allergies. I've never had these. Like, this has not been something that's affected me in the past.
Same.
I thought I just had a cold with one symptom that would never go away. Is what I'm dealing with here.
Same.
Does the tea help? You always get tea. Does that help?
I am a tea truther, so in my opinion, yes. But obviously, you know, if coffee is more your flavor or what have you, I am pro tea. That's for sure.
Interesting. I don't do coffee at all. I just maybe some hot drink in the morning. I'm gonna have to try it. I'm new to this allergies, so leave me comments on how you combat these evil monstrosities, because it just feels like it'll never go away. But that's today's allergy talk podcast, the CovertGo Congested
Brought to you
by
by
brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, who is sponsoring the audio version of our podcast, which you can now find on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts. Use the promo code CGBPod at checkout on CoolStuffInc.com to get a discount and show that you appreciate those audio locales to listen to our beautiful voices. And if you haven't yet, go subscribe on those platforms so that you can take our show wherever you go. What the hell is our show, you might ask, besides allergy talk?
It's us yapping about cards for an hour and a half, roughly. That's what our show is.
There will be yapping about cards, and I'm really excited about this one. So right around the corner, we have a new set, Tarkir Dragonstorm. You know a little something about this set. This will come out after our first video releases of you playing Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Okay,
you can talk about it a little bit. Yep, absolutely. Okay. But Tarkir Dragonstorm is the long-awaited sequel to the original set, Khans of Tarkir, and its block. And today, we are going to be reviewing cards from the original Tarkir block.
Oh, okay.
Which is known for being one of the greatest standard sets, standard environments, standard formats of all time.
Really?
Okay. I know. Usually our show is all about just the degenerate, terrible formats. This one is actually revered as a very successful format. Maybe there's something to take away from that. So I'm going to be basking in Khan's nostalgia. You're going to be checking out some of these cards that I don't think you've seen before for the first time. And maybe a few things you have a little experience with now. They might have been in a deck you played, something like that.
Maybe.
But I think you're going to do fine with it, because you're really good at picking up new skills. You know, lifelong learning is a very important thing if you're going to be good at understanding Magic cards. And if you want to learn some new skills, let's get a word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Imagine if there was a game that could teach you valuable real-world skills that change your career trajectory. Well, that's exactly what Boot.dev, the sponsor of today's video, is here to do. With Boot.dev, you can learn back-end web development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages. The smartest way to learn to code is to make sure that you are never bored and that you stick with it long enough to reach your goals. You can't learn to code without actually writing a lot of code and building real projects. This is where Boot.dev shines by keeping you engaged by building a fantasy world type game while also learning the language. I've never understood a single thing about code, but I was able to get almost all the way up to the pupil rank in under an hour. You will earn XP, levels, achievements, and complete quests in order to get the top spot on the global leaderboard. A paid membership unlocks all the interactive features like hands-on coding, AI assistance, progress tracking, and game elements. So start your journey to being a mythic coder today. Go to boot.dev and use my code CovertGoBlue to get 25% off your entire first order when you choose the annual plan. That's boot.dev using the code CovertGoBlue for 25% off the annual plan. Now back to the video. So, Khans of Tarkir. The first thing you need to understand is that Magic used to do these things called blocks. Are you familiar with blocks, set blocks?
All I really know is I think it's like some number of sets, and that's like, you know, that's the theme of whatever time frame. I don't know like the specifics, but I know it's like a chunk of time essentially. So if you want to elaborate on that, I'm very curious.
For a very long period of time, starting, I believe, in the 2000s and lasting up until like 2017, 2018, something like that. The way that Magic would work is in blocks. So you would go to a world, a plane, a Ravnica, a Tarkir, and your first set would be a very large set, and it would explore usually a new world or what's happened to a world since you've been there last. And then a few months later, a second set would come out. It would often be smaller. So if Khans of Tarkir is almost 300 cards, then you get like a 120 to 150 card set that continues in the world, but offers you another side of the world that you haven't seen yet. It usually takes some mechanics from the first set and expands on them, or adds new mechanics that work with those mechanics, or in some cases against those mechanics to create a more dynamic environment. And then there was often a third smaller set that would release a few months after that, which would then expand on all of it, or in some ways bring the world together. And in Khans of Tarkir, there was Fate Reforged and then Dragons of Tarkir. And the way it looked at it is like you were on a timeline in Khans of Tarkir where all the dragons were extinct for some reason. But in Fate Reforged, Sarkhan travels back in time and saves the Ugin, the spirit dragon, the big bad. So then by Dragons of Tarkir in the new timeline, dragons rule Tarkir instead of the Khans of Tarkir. So really cool stuff like that. And that's just kind of that's some lore flavor just to kind of set the stage. But we're going to start out in Khans of Tarkir. Now, there are 5 Khans, and they are 3 color combinations, like you had experience in our game. And this set, each of these color combinations had what's called a signpost rare. It's supposed to be a rare that kind of set you up. So I'm going to show you these 5 signpost rares, and I want you to rank them by what you think is best. And
best to worst.
And you're going to let me know if you think any got banned. Okay. Ready to
go? Side note. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Sort of does this thing with blocks, but we just don't really call it that. I think it's just like the natural progression of our set. So typically what happens is after, I want to say for the most part, after like our like world championship and stuff. So usually around like August, we'll get like a set that it's not like a 300 card set like what you're saying. It'll still be like a 100 card set typically, but it sort of is like it's setting the tone for the year. And so we'll typically get several cards in this product that the next product will expand upon, and then the third product will expand upon, the fourth product will expand upon, and then we kind of like repeat the loop essentially. So it's weird that like we have blocks in a way, but we don't really call them that. Because like I'm thinking about, there's so many examples of this, especially when they give us like TCG exclusive archetypes. They slowly drip feed us like the cards for the decks to play. So it's interesting that we follow a similar trajectory, but like in a different way. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, has that been in place for a long time though? I am curious. I like block talk.
That's a good question. I want to say yes, they kind of still do it, especially. So it's weird with us because we have 2 separate things going on here, because we have all the cards that get released in the Asian territories, the OCG, and we see these several months in advance, and we know that they're going to come out in these exact sets when they eventually make their way over to the non-Asian territories several months later. But what also happens is we also get what are called TCG exclusive archetypes. So these are cards that are custom made by the non-Asian territories to throw into these sets that give us a bit of a surprise factor. And this is only maybe like 10 or 15 of the cards per set, but some of these TCG exclusive archetypes have actually been like meta dominating threats because they were cards that were brand new and never were seen before by the Asian territories. And then after about a year, they'll make their way into Asia. So we have this like weird hybrid going on with it. But for instance, typically the first set will give us like sort of, I don't want to spoil too much in case I show you these at some point, but they'll give us like 4 or 5 cards of an archetype or a deck, and you can see the potential of that deck. Like you get like the theme, the mechanics, like the dynamics of like how it's supposed to work. Usually the second set gives us like the broken shit. Like it'll give us the set that like gives us the cards that are going to make the archetype like a tier 1 force. And then the third and fourth set subsequently may or may not either make it even more strong, or they're kind of irrelevant because the second set was just that good. And I feel like we followed that pattern for, I want to say at least for like the past decade. But there definitely was I want to say maybe halfway through Yu-Gi-Oh's lifespan, we started to see this shift into this like archetypical progression of like introducing us and drip feeding us these archetypes. So, yeah, for anyone who's curious, I guess, Yu-Gi-Oh sort of has that as well. It's just not like defined that way. It's just kind of like they throw it at you and it's like, here you go.
I've heard from a lot of people in Magic that they miss blocks, that they miss that kind of structure of knowing that we're going to go to a world and visit it for a while. And it still does. That's a great question. I think that don't spit out your T2 aggressively there. Your microphone needs to be spared. Why did they get rid of it? They did release an article. They did talk about it. I'm trying to remember the reason behind the corporate reason is always a question mark. You know what I mean? I'm going to tell you.
I suppose like from a, just like, and this is with me knowing nothing. I feel like one issue is that if the first set is received poorly, they're locked into that for a year. And I feel like that can be a bit constraining in terms of like a sales perspective. Right? That would be my best guess as to why they would do that. But I mean, if you have any other insight, I'm curious.
Definitely now that I've seen some of the nonsense sets like Outlaws of Thunder Junction, everyone's a cowboy, Murders of Karlov Manor, everyone's a detective. I'm glad we didn't spend 3 sets in that world. That would be obnoxious. So you could conspiracy theory that that's a reason, that they were doing riskier stuff that they knew wouldn't land with their primary base over the long term.
Sure.
I think it's, in hindsight now, I think it's Universes Beyond. I think they knew that they wanted to do more Universes Beyond, more Final Fantasy sets, more Avatar sets, and dropping those in the middle of a block didn't make sense.
Right.
That's
true.
what I think it was. That's what I think.
Let us know in the comments.
What killed
Here's
blocks.
What you think.
Also, let me know if you miss blocks. I liked blocks. I liked them a lot. I liked really getting to fully flesh out a world. Are you ready to flesh out this world?
I am. I'm excited, especially since you said this is like very well received. I'm curious to see why that is the case.
You're probably going to look at these and be like, "This isn't powerful."
Holy crap! You sent me everything
classic
at once.
Standard. Yeah. So
should I read them all at once? Should I go one at a time? How do you want me to approach this?
Yeah, read the card and react to it a little, and move on to the next.
Sure. Yep. First up is Butcher of the Horde. Sick name. This is 1, a red, a white, and a black for a 5/4 demon with flying. And sacrifice another creature. Butcher of the Horde gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Haste until end of turn. That's very fitting considering the color combination we've got here.
Mardu.
That seems pretty cool.
Butcher is the lead rare, the signpost rare for Mardu, the Mardu clan.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, this seems cool, especially if I don't like, obviously when we're getting into like, Trinity. I'm slowly starting to understand like some of these color identities, but then when they merge, and I'm still learning like, the duos and the trios and kind of what they're going for. But if you just have like a bunch of free fodder to give this thing, like, because you can do this multiple times, you can give it multiple abilities. So if you just have a bunch of like random like tokens or things that are free, because I like free, that's where mine goes. Like if you're just able to just like pump this guy up, granted he doesn't gain stats, but giving it just like, even just giving it Vigilance, Lifelink is enough, because you only really need haste the first turn you play it. So that's not bad. I think it's fine.
Mardu is known, by the way, for sacrificial aggression. Very aggressive and lots of little fodder.
That would make sense given this card. Okay, cool. Next up is Mantis Ride. Oh, this fucking rocks. I don't even know, like, this is sick. It's a giant fucking mantis.
Yes.
It's so cool. All right. This is blue, red, white, which is very cheap for a 3/3 human monk. I guess I was about to say that doesn't make sense, but it's the guy on the mantis, not the actual mantis itself. Is mantis a type, or had they never done that?
God, I believe insect is a type, not mantis.
Sure. They would just probably make it insect. Yeah, we have insects in Yu-Gi-Oh too. Although I don't think I've shown you like one. I think exactly. But anyway, very simple card: Flying, Vigilance, Haste. Similar to the Butcher, I just love like I love the simplicity of this card. It just like embodies all 3 colors, I feel like, because you got like the flying with blue, you have the vigilance with white, and you have the haste with red. And it's just, that seems pretty good. Like I see this and this, like, if I'm just going to rank these 2 as is, I kind of like the Mantis Rider over the Butcher. I don't know. Just the value seems really good. You don't have to sacrifice something, but obviously, you know, that's what that other, you know, Trinity of Colors wants to do. But granted, like, you know, it's hard for me to really grasp like stats, especially like as we're looking at older cards, but like 3 mana for a 3/3, even though it's in 3 different colors with 3 different keywords, seems really good to me, just like on face. But I just love that he's riding a fucking Mantis. Like, I just want to put it at number one just because of that.
It's very cool.
Next up is my favorite color trinity. We have Rakshasa Vizier. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I believe so.
Okay. This is 2, a black, a green, and a blue. So it's a bit expensive. For a cat demon, that's hilarious, for a 4/4. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from your graveyard, put that many +1/+1 counters on Rakshasa Vizier. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from your graveyard, put that many +1/+1 counters. So you can pump this guy up to make it pretty big, but like, that's all this is doing. And I remember from when I've played my decks with these colors, like, that's not hard to do, but like, it's just a guy. I think like I wish there was like keywords on this, because like with Butcher, I feel like there's like synergies, because if there's other things that benefit from like the sacrificing, so then you have like some combo potential there. And I feel like the Mantis Rider is just like really good value. I think this is like the least impressive of the 3 that I've seen so far. Like, if I were rating these like in real time, I'm like Mantis Rider at the top, Butcher the Horde middle, and then the Vizier at the bottom so far. This just like, I don't know. And like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Vizier is like crazy, but it just seems like kind of, yeah, I mean, I guess similar to the Butcher, there could be synergies where if exiling stuff from your graveyard triggers other things, which I obviously did in our games, then maybe that's fine, but it doesn't do it itself. I wish it had like an extra ability where it's like you could like exile stuff to pump it. So the fact you have to rely on something else to do that, I feel like there's just like better things you could be doing, but I could be wrong. Let's see what we got next. Savage Knuckleblade. I think you may have shown me this. This looks somewhat familiar.
It's possible. I showed you Big Nux.
It's possible. Let's review, though. Green, blue, and a red for a 4/4 Ogre Warrior. So this is better statted than the Mantis Rider. Difference is, though, it requires you to pay mana for all these abilities. 2 and a green, Savage Knuckleblade gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate this only once each turn. I like how they have a restriction on that, sure.
Yeah,
2
very
blue,
dangerous.
Return Savage Knuckleblade to the owner's hand. Dodge, like, removal, I guess, sure. And then for a red, Savage Knuckleblade gains haste until end of turn. Well, unlike the Vizier, at least this sort of has the ability to give itself, like, it can pump itself, albeit once. It can like dodge stuff, and then it can like haste itself. So there's a world where it's like kind of sticky, where it's like, okay, you get the guy, they try to remove it, you can like bounce it to hand, and then like next turn replay it and like give it haste potentially, and then just like try to get in. But at that point, there's just like better cards at doing that. I definitely feel like this one's on the lower end too for me. I mean, it's 3 mana for a 4/4.
Not a fan of Big Nux, huh?
I'm not a fan of Big Nux. No, he looks very frightening too, for what it's worth, and not like in a good way, like in a horrifying way.
And this is a part of the Teamer clan, which is known for big monsters and dragons. And lots of known for much dragonness. Okay.
Let's see our 5th guy here. Siege Rhino. I do love rhinos, so I'm in. 1, a white, a black, and a green. For a 4/5 Rhino. I like how that's a type. Very funny. Trample. It's a Rhino. That makes sense. When Siege Rhino enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life. So this is weird. I think I've talked about this before. Life gain in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like a joke. I want to say, and I feel confident making this statement, I think there is like one actual good life gain card in Yu-Gi-Oh! That is not typically used for like malicious purposes. The reason I say that is because typically the only reason life gain is relevant, I don't know how this works for Magic, but in tournament level Yu-Gi-Oh! our end of match procedures, how they work is that when time gets called in the round, whoever's turn it is, they're allowed to finish their current phase, not their current turn, their current phase. And once that phase is over, the game is over. So, unfortunately, when there's few minutes left on the clock and you're siding for game 3, some people will side in cards that have a life gain effect, even though they're awful, just so that in the main phase of their like first turn, they can like play that card, gain life points. Time's called in the round. I'm up on life points, so I win the game. It's very stupid.
So who is ahead on life when the game is called wins?
Correct. Well, they would
feel
win
like
that
that's
game.
An important point.
They would win that game, yeah. So not the whole match. But if it's, let's say, game 3, then you would win the whole match, right? If it's game 2, let's say you lost the first one, you'd actually force a draw in that instance. Yeah, very controversial. They did this. We used to have time rules where you'd get extra turns. The problem is it would take so long for extra turns to conclude each round that they started doing this to like shorten the time, and it sort of worked, but at the compromise of people getting really pissed off at the time rules as a result. So it's very frustrating. It causes a lot of tension in the community when like the rounds are very close to time because everyone's like, speed up playing, different things like that. And as you know, sometimes in Yu-Gi-Oh, you need to take a lot of actions during a single turn, right? So it's a very hated part of the competitive scene for sure. And so
take a guess. I want you to guess how many turns Magic players get after time is called to finish their game.
After time is called, so Yu-Gi-Oh used to have 5. So it was turn 0, the person whose turn it was would finish, and then you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if Magic was the same.
Oh, yeah, it's exactly that. Yes.
Yeah.
And I have seen those turns take 20 minutes.
They can.
Yeah,
they can.
It's absolutely wild, some of the situations people get into.
Interestingly enough, and I don't know if they've changed this, I think the Asian territories does something where when time is called, the turn player finishes their turn, and then the opposing player gets 1 turn. And then once that turn finishes, that's the end of the game. And I like that a lot because it shortens the turn length, but also makes it so that it doesn't seem like completely unfair to the person who, like, when time got called, you don't even get to play a turn, right? It's kind of lame. So it's kind of like a nice in-between. Again, OCG and TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! Are in 2 separate silos, so they don't interact with each other, so it's very frustrating. But I think a lot of people would like that as a compromise. But anyway, we're not here for that.
But we're here for all of it. I have to stress, we get draws.
We do too. We have draws too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You said higher life total. I was like,
well, so here's an example, right? Let's say I beat you in our first game, and that game took 40 minutes. We have 45-minute rounds. So say that took 40 minutes. We side deck. We have 3 minutes to side deck. You bring in your life gain cards, and then you take your turn. You're doing actions, and then time gets called. You play your life gain card. You're up on life. You end your phase. You win that game. We're 1-1, so we get a draw.
And it's a draw. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. God, higher life total though.
It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Terrifying. So unfortunately, all these really bad cards are played because they have like a life gain effect as a result of that. Sometimes they synergize with a deck, and sometimes decks have built-in mechanics to gain life, which is even, when some decks just like literally will have a card that you would play normally that just happens to gain you like 300 life points, right? And if you're both tied, that's all you need, and it's like built into the deck already. It's very frustrating.
So you're saying Siege Rhino is busted?
So that's sort of what I wanted to circle back to. My point is, the only reason the life gain cards are good in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because people like cheese wins with them. There is one card in particular that I may have already showed you or may not. That is a life gain card. I'll just tell you about it, actually. I'll pull it up for you. I think it'll be interesting since we're, even though this is a Magic video. I think it'll be interesting. It's
content.
Let me get this pulled up here 1 second. Now I'm asking you to read cards.
Honestly, this is BS. I already made your video. This is crap. Did I send you any homework during it? Absolutely not.
Okay, here you go. So this is Ghost Girl or Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. Give this a read.
What the hell? Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. What? Level 3, 0 attack, 1800 defense, zombie tuner effect. Dude, there's so much more text than the cards I've shown you. This is more text than those. This is more text than all 5 cards
you've just shown me. Yep.
Absolute. This is all right. During either turn except the end phase, quick effect, you can discard this card. Apply this effect this turn. You can only use this effect of Ghost, Sister, and Spooky Dogwood once per turn. And the effect. Each time your opponent special summons an effect monsters during the main phase or battle phase, you gain life points equal to the monster's attack. If you did not gain life points by this effect, your life points are halved during the end phase.
So this is actually a way that, in the instance I'm explaining to you, where if there's like close to time being called in a round, the player who's not the turn player can actually use this as a way for them to gain life points to like win that game. But outside of that, if we're going to take the time rules out of it, there's actually a strategic purpose to playing this card. So this is max C, but for life points instead of card draw. That's what a lot of people equate it to. And what's interesting about this is that there is a world, it may sound crazy to you, there is a world where Dogwood could actually gain you like 20,000 life points in a single turn. And what's interesting about that is, although you're not getting any cards off of this compared to something like Max C, you become very difficult to kill if your opponent's comboing off doing their thing and you're gaining life points from all of these effects of these monsters. All of a sudden, your life points are at like 30,000. Most Yu-Gi-Oh decks are designed to like kill at like 8,000, right? Sometimes it could go to like 9 or 10,000, but typically, like, you know, they have 8,000 life. Life gain isn't really a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh. So as long as you can deal that 8,000 plus, you know you can win the game. Dogwood sort of throws that on its head, because now with this card in the mix, you Dogwood your opponent. Let's say they have a bunch of guys on the field and they can hit you for 8,000. Okay. You have 20, 30,000 life points. You can actually just draw pass for a couple turns and get more cards to then fight back once you have like the number of resources or the specific resources to just kill them, because they can't kill you because you use Dogwood to go up to like 4 billion life points, right? So there's actually a lot of like really interesting application with this card, and it has seen play aside from like the degenerate time purposes, although that's primarily what it's used for. But so that's like our best life gain card, if you will. Well, Siege Rhino.
It's an interesting concept, because one of the fun things to talk about is at what point is life gain card draw? Because if you live more turns, you draw more cards. Anyway.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. So going back to Siege Rhino, it's a little bit different though, right? Because you have this like 6 life swing, but also it's on a body that's like decently statted. Like 4 mana for a 4/5 seems pretty good for what it's worth. Having Trample's nice too, because they have a bunch of tiny stuff. You can like get some damage in with that. And so also, if you're able to play like multiple of these, or like, you know, like you're in black, so you could like reanimate it or whatever, over time, that could be like really, really oppressive actually, because you don't even have to like hit in with it, right? It's just like you play it, the life's getting drained. But it's already on like a decent statted card. And so from doing all these videos with you, I feel like I've learned to like kind of value these sort of pieces that on paper don't blow me away, right? But like they're just really good value. And so I think this is like probably one of those from my evaluation. So I think if I had to like rank these from best to worst, where am I at? Definitely the Knuckleblade and the Vizier are at the bottom for me, and then the Butcher, the Mantis Rider. I just want to put Mantis Rider at the top because he's so fucking cool. But the Siege Rhino is also cool.
And you like rhinos, which is not something I knew about you. Now
I do like rhinos. They're cool. So I think I'm gonna put. Let's start with the bottom, because I feel like those two. God, is Knuckleblade better than Vizier? I don't really like that Vizier needs like other things to like get it going. Like at least Knuckleblade can do stuff, even though it like costs you mana. So I guess I'll put like the Vizier at the bottom, which breaks my heart because that's my color trio that I like the most. So I'll put Vizier at the bottom. I'll put Knuckleblade fourth. And
now it's time to rumble.
Yeah. What am I ranking these on again? Just like in a vacuum, just how good they are?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you a number of cards during this video, and we can move, basically, we can move the overall clans up and down.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm going to show you other cards that go into a Jeskai archetype, which is Mantis Rider's place, and other Sultai cards, and you can move where you think they fall.
I'll put Butcher in the middle. Rhino... I really love the fucking Mantis Rider, dude. I'm going to put Rhino second, Mantis Rider first, just because I think Mantis Rider's awesome. So Rider, Rhino, Butcher, Knuckleblade, Vizier. That's my current order.
Oh, wow. So I put it numbers descending 5 to 1, and it switched it on me to 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, thank you, Discord, for that. But so we have Sultai at the bottom, Jeskai at the top. That should be an ascending list, but it changed my numbers for no reason.
Excellent.
All right. That's where we stand right now. I think that's pretty good. I think you did a good job. Do you think any of those cards at this point got banned?
Banned?
Mm-hmm. Did
Really?
you see anything bannable?
No. Unless there's some like ridiculous combo with like Butcher, because it's like a sack outlet. That's like the only thing that like really stands out as bannable. But I go back to that one video we did of what's the card that everyone laughed at me that I got wrong? What was it? It was a red card. I think it was like a Saga.
Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah, I go back to that, and they banned that, didn't they?
Yeah. Just
so
too
like,
much value in one card.
Right. So like maybe, I don't know, maybe Mantis Rider's too much value in one card. Maybe Siege Rider. It would be one of the three. I would not consider the other two bannable. These don't feel ban worthy to me. So I'm going to go with
you can circle back if you want.
Okay,
to.
I'll circle back. If I see more, maybe I'll change my mind. You've done that in our videos historically too. So I'll come back.
Yes. And the next group is going to be each color combination of the clans, these 3 color combos, received a mythic legendary creature. That is supposed to be like the leader of that color combination for the set. So you're going to get to evaluate these mythic legendaries, and you are, we're revealing pieces. So like you can compare this to like, how does Anafenza work with Siege Rhino, and is it good? Is Sidisi good with the Vizier, etc. So here they come. These are your 5 legendary clan leaders.
Mantis Rider should have been a mythic. It's a Mantis Rider. Anyway. What'd you call this? Anafenza?
Anafenza the Foremost.
That's a cool name. She's on a chariot with rams. That's badass. Okay. So this is white, black, and green for a 4/4. Very well statted. Similar to the Rhino. Noticing a trend here. Whenever Anafenza the Foremost attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on another target tapped creature you control. So I'm assuming that means that like if you're already attacking, you just put a counter on that, correct?
Yeah. You can also put counters on like a creature you tap for mana, which are popular in green, or something like that.
Okay. I'm just thinking in the context of Siege Rhino, that makes it, a 5/6 with Trample? That could be pretty good. If a creature card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. That's pretty good.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Would love it.
Sure. We have a few cards that do that. There's a card in particular right now that people want banned that does something kind of similar to that. Neat card. I mean, it just seems like good value. It has like a minor like floodgate effect on it for like the graveyard decks, which is neat. It's cheap, so if you get it out, you can get it out early enough that it actually like makes an impact to stop setup, especially for like the colors that I like. It seems pretty good. This is Narset, Enlightened Master. God, the art on these are sick. This is 3, a blue and a red and a white. Very expensive, though. For a 3/2, all right, this effect better be broken. First Strike and Hexproof. So, can you explain First Strike to me? This is like Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have this, so this is like...
Okay.
I've always struggled to understand this mechanic, so lay it out for me.
So if a First Strike creature and a creature without First Strike get into combat with each other, the creature with First Strike will deal its damage to the other creature. The other creature has to survive the damage, or it doesn't get to deal damage back to the creature with First Strike.
I got it. Okay, so like Narset is like, she has this like this pole arm thing, right? So I'm imagining like Narset stabbing something before it has the chance to attack her, so it dies first.
Yes.
Got it. But if it's like a rhino, she stabs it, okay, the rhino's still gonna like, just run her over basically.
I will do some rulesy stuff with you. So the first strike damage phase is treated as a separate phase from regular damage, and at the end of each phase, there is an opportunity for players to cast instants or activate instant speed abilities. So for example, if Narset got into battle with a rhino, in first strike damage, Narset would deal 3 damage to the rhino. Then there would be a moment of priority where the Narset player could cast a lightning bolt, for example, deal 3 more damage to the rhino and kill it before the rhino dealt any damage to the Narset.
That's really interesting. So Yu-Gi-Oh has a similar like subset of rules during battle. We call it like the damage step, and there's like subsections of the damage step. And we have, I don't know if Magic is like this, but we have it where there's only certain types of cards that can be activated when damage is being applied. So in your instance, when you're talking about the lightning bolts, just like deal damage, right? It's just like deal 3 damage or something like that.
Yes, 1 mana, 3 damage.
So Yu-Gi-Oh, you wouldn't be able to use that type of effect in the damage step window. The only types of effects you can use during damage step are cards that modify the stats of a monster, whether it's yours or your opponent's, or specifically counter trap cards. Those are the only 2 types of effects that can be used when like damage is like about to be applied. So it's similar, but our restrictions seem to be a bit heavier in terms of like what we can and can't do. That's interesting. And then hexproof just, it can't be targeted, right?
It can't be targeted by the opponent. It can be targeted by you.
Okay, sure.
The controller. Yep.
Okay, cool. Then whenever Narset attacks, exile the top 4 cards of your library until the end of turn. You may cast non-creature cards exile with Narset this turn without paying their mana. Ooh, free! We like
got
free.
Him. We got him.
You got him.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. So let's say you're attacking the rhino, right? You attack, you get your first strike damage, assuming they block, and then does that attack? Well, I guess it would be on attack declaration. You exile the top 4. And then if you hit a lightning bolt, you can cast that lightning bolt immediately and kill the rhino before the Narset would die, hypothetically.
So this window, like the way that these spells work, it says until end of turn you may cast the spells that you exiled. So you basically get to hold the lightning bolt over combat. Like,
sure, right.
You see the cards that get exiled that you can then cast before they declare blockers. It's right after you say, I attack with Narset, and I flip these 4 cards, and these are the ones I can cast. I have till end of turn to cast them.
That seems
for free.
Okay, I can see why this costs 6 now. That seems very powerful. Cool. That's a neat card. I like all the like fun stuff you can do with it. Is it better than Anafenza? Hard to say. I might come back for my rating here. Next up, Sidisi. I was playing with this in one of our games, as a matter of fact. I don't know if I actually ever played it, but it was in the deck, if anything. So I actually kind of know this one. This is the Brood Tyrant, excuse me. This is 1 a black, a green, and a blue for a 3/3 Naga Shaman. And whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, very Yu-Gi-Oh! And whenever 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. I like this because it's just like a self-fueling engine. Like it just like it does the thing. It has one effect, and the first effect fuels the second effect. The rate on it seems really good, but it also like synergizes with like the rest of your deck and what it's doing. I really like Sidisi. I think Sidisi's definitely up there for sure. But we will look at the others before I make a total evaluation here.
We can also peel. I'm down with peeling back some layers on this. So we do a couple turns of warm-up games with the decks to try to like figure out how the decks work and just get vibes.
It's ruined.
Yeah. So you in the warm-up game had Sidisi. I believe you whiffed on Sidisi.
I whiffed like 6 times on Sidisi.
Even with a Hermit Druid on the field.
Yep.
I mean,
it was impressive. It was
bad. It was the worst Sidisi I've ever seen him play. You should have
I'm
had
glad
like 12
that did not
zombies.
make the final cut. I'm just going to say that. That would have been a very depressing game.
I'm impressed. Like afterwards, we're like, okay, are there any cards that you want to cut? Anything that you don't like about the deck? You stuck with Sidisi. I was very impressed. Most people would throw the card in the trash in a heartbeat.
I think it was just a series of very unfortunate mills. And like I was like thinning the deck for Hermit Druid for all my basics to get like the biggest Hermit Hermit Druid Mills possible. I just kept whiffing. Sometimes the casino doesn't pay out. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, Sidisi Casino was mean to you, but still a great card and a beloved card, actually.
Yeah, it seems solid if you can actually get it to hit. Anyway, Surak Dragonclaw. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce that or not. 2 green, blue, and a red for a 6/6. This is a legendary creature human warrior with flash. That's very interesting. It can't be countered. Very funny. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Ooh, okay. And other creatures you control have trample. So big guy, you could flash him in, so you can play him at instant speed, which is kind of cool. I like how he just has a bear head as his like shoulder pads. It's very badass. Other creature spells you control can't be countered. This is like a very anti-you card. So if like I remember playing against you.
I hate this card. I hate this card. Oh.
And then other creatures you control have tramp. So I think the main reason you'd want to play this is just because it makes all your stuff, like, if you're playing against, like, blue specifically, like, that would be... But if you're... Other colors don't really have counter spells, so, like, I feel like this is kind of narrow, actually. But it's a way to flash in a big guy at any moment, giving your other things trample. I think that I'm least impressed with this one. I think this one's, like, a bit narrow. And I can't wait for you to tell me this is like broken and got banned, but I'm not particularly impressed with our good old friend Dragonclaw here. Let's see the last one. Zurgo Helm Smasher. That's a name. 2, a red, a white, and a black for a 7/2 Orc Warrior Legendary with haste. It attacks each combat if able and has indestructible as long as it's your turn. I was about to say, there better be something good on this if this thing has 2 health or toughness on it. And whenever a creature dealt damage by Zurgo Helm Smasher this turn dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. You can bring it in. It's a 7/2 for 5. You can swing immediately. You have to swing with it too. And it's indestructible on your turn, but indestructible has its limitations on how good it can still be.
Exile still gets rid of it.
Exile still gets rid
countered.
of it. -1/-1 stuff gets rid of it. I guess -2/-2 stuff gets rid of it because that's not... I've learned that. That's a thing. You can still bounce it and make them, like, waste their turn, basically. I'm least impressed with these last two. I think these are just, like... They're, like, kind of whatever. So if I were to put these in order now, so am I ranking these individually, or are we doing the clans as a whole here?
I like ranking the clans as we flesh it out. If you do, and still interested if you see anything that got banned. Okay, so now I need to like go look up. So Zurgo goes with Butcher. Butcher seems way better than Zurgo. But if we're putting them together, where is that going to rate everything? So I have a good card and a bad card for that color combination. Green, blue, red is not looking particularly good. I think that's going to the bottom. That's very depressing. So both of those cards do not seem particularly strong. So we're putting, which one is that? Teamer? Yep, Teamer. So Teamer's going to the bottom. Sidisi definitely lifts my preferred color combination up a bit. You want to believe. I want to believe, yes. I mean, I think Sidisi's really good. It just unfortunately has the Vizier holding it back. But, I mean, obviously, there's combos there. So I think right now, yeah, so definitely Teamer at the bottom. Sultai is the blue, red, white one? No. That is... Sultai is Sidisi. Sorry. Yes. Jeskai. Jeskai is the blue, right? Yes. Okay. Jeskai's looking pretty good. Both of these cards seem crazy to me. So, Jeskai might be at the top still. And then Anna Fenza goes with Siege Rhino. There's cool combos there. So, I think at this rate, I am Jeskai at the top. Abzan is number 2. Sultai is number 3. Mardu number 4. Teamer number 5. That's where I'm at so far. Okay. Keeping up. So Jeskai, Abzan, Sultai, Mardu, and Temur. All right.
Yes.
All right. I mean,
How we doing, Dad? How we doing?
We're doing all right. We're hanging in there. In there. All right. And let's introduce the ascendancies. I think something that people liked a lot about this approach to the cons of Tarkir was that there were a lot of cycles. So we've seen the cycle of rare creatures that are not legendary. We've seen the cycle of mythic legendaries. And there was also this cycle of rare ascendancies, the ascendancy cycle. So each of these is an enchantment that costs exactly the colors of mana of the clan. So for Temur, it's green, blue, red. For Sultai, it's black, blue, green, 3 total mana. And each of them has a different effect that is supposed to be helpful to their clan. So to their con. Let's check them out. Let's see if these change your perception of how the cons play.
Okay, so Abzan Ascendancy is a white, black, green. They're all enchantments too, I presume, right?
Yep.
You may have said that. I might have missed it. Anyway, when it enters, put a +1/+1 on each creature you control, seeing a trend here. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Nice value there. It's 3 mana too, so it's cheap. Okay. Jeskai Ascendancy, blue, red, white for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn and untap them. Oh, hell yeah. Let's go. Mantis Riders, baby. Woo! And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. We like drawing cards. Okay? Mardu Ascendancy is red, white, and black for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, so more aggression. And then sacrifice this. Creatures you control gain +0/+3 until end of turn. That seems like the least good one of the bunch. So Mardu's not looking too hot in my eyes. Sultai
Can you imagine it's a toughness boost? It's so weird. What if it were a power boost?
Yeah, I know. Sultai Ascendancy. I love the art on this one. Black, green, blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your grave and the rest back on top in any order. This one's interesting because it only has 1 effect, where the other ones have had 2. But obviously, there's a lot of value to be gained from that. But it's 3 mana to mill 2 per turn, potentially. But you also get to look at your draws. And then lastly, Temur Ascendancy, green, blue, red. Creatures have haste. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters under your control, you may draw a card. I think out of all of these, again, the Abzan and the Jeskai ones are the most impressive to me. Because it seems to kind of fit the vibe of what we're going for here. As much as I want to keep glazing Sultai, I have Sultai in the middle, so maybe that's just where we keep it. I'm kind of my guesses, I think, are still kind of in the same area at this point. I think the Mardu Ascendancy seems... The Mardu Ascendancy just kind of seems meh to me. Seems weird. Doesn't feel like it fits the theme, but I could be wrong. But I don't know if the Temur Ascendancy pulls Temur above Mardu still. Because I still like Butcher the Horde a lot. I think... I'm going to keep my order. I think I'm going to keep my order the same. So Jeskai still at the top, Abzan second, Sultai third, Mardu fourth, Temur fifth. I don't think these actually change much. I think these are about on par with my guesses and how they've been so far. I still don't know if I see anything ban-worthy at this point, but we'll circle back. We'll circle back.
Yes, we will. All right. We're going to now break off into what we would call, instead of the cycles, I'm going to show you some individual cards that were very powerful from the set.
You're just throwing everything at me today.
Yeah, I am. We're building a whole meta from scratch. So let's start with a card that you do know. Okay. I saw this on a thumbnail of yours recently.
This is how is this legal? I'm sorry. This card is insane. I think this was in one of my decks that we played for the episode. I didn't get to cast it though, unfortunately. It's If there's something bannable, please tell me this is what got banned, because there's no way this card's okay. This is Treasure Cruise. This is 7 and a blue, which sounds ridiculous until you realize how broken this is. It has Delve, which I learned is one of the craziest mechanics ever, where each card you exile from your graveyard while casting the spell pays for 1. So basically, this card's free. You're paying 1 blue, and for that, what do? You get to draw 3 cards. That's so insane. That is actually nuts. I didn't realize this came from this set. That's unbelievable. Welcome,
Treasure Cruise, to Magic the Gathering here in Cons of Tarkir.
Yep.
So this card gets your attention. Yeah. Okay, so your prediction is that this card got banned. You're going to go on record with that right now? In Standard?
It's so good. Like, there is, like, I cannot think of a world where this card, like, in Commander, it's probably fine. Well, it has to be because I was playing with it, I think. But, like, I can't imagine in a format where you could play 4 of this card and your deck is just, like, mill your deck, which Sultai can do very easily. You just dump your deck, and now you have access to 4 draw 3 cards. There's no world where that's okay. Like, if this card was legal, I have no concept of your game, but this card does not seem okay in the slightest to me.
I'm going to put a pin in it.
It's a common! It's a common!
It is a common. It is.
Did they not think it was going to be good? Did they not think it was going to be good?
Were they ready to ban it and they didn't want to hurt people's wallets?
Maybe.
Hard to say. A lot of theories about Treasure Cruise.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Has done that before. There's been like crazy generic cards that they've printed. And historically, it'll be like a common in the Asian territories. And you may not know this. When they come to the non-Asian territories, they actually change the rarities of the cards, which is very fucked up. So something that might be a common in the Asian territories might be secret rare in the non-Asian territories. And you're not allowed to play with Asian cards. You can't play with like Japanese cards, anything like that. You can only... Yeah, it's a whole thing. So... They do that because then you can't just buy like the 50-cent version in Asia versus like the $50 one that we have to deal with. It's disgusting. So there was one time, there's this card in particular. I may have showed it to you before. For people listening, it's Dino Wrestler Pankratops. We saw this card and we're like, there's no way this card is anything other than a secret because it was like one of the craziest cards they've ever printed. And it was generic and every deck could play it and it was nuts. It came over, it was a common, and everyone was just stunned because that could have easily been like a $100 a piece card, and they printed it a common, and it ended up getting banned at some point because it was too good. It's legal again now, but yeah, so I could see it. Okay,
I mean, it is one of the more surprising commons in history. It might be one of the best commons in history. Honestly, name a better common. Name a better common in Magic. I don't know. But let me show you a rare card with Delve.
You do that. I'm going to show you Pankratops in the meantime. So you can see how, by Magic standards, I want to know how busted you think this card is.
Oh, fine. I'll look at your Yu-Gi-Oh!
There's not
cards
that much
on my
text.
show.
There's not that much text.
Yeah, not that much text for you. Like, I want to stress, one of the things I like about these cards is they are very digestible. Like, you don't have to read them 5 times to understand them for the most part.
I don't know why the images aren't loading. That's weird.
Because you have amazing sites that capture the images and share them with the world. Don't even get me started.
Okay, fine. All right, give this a read.
Dino Wrestler Pankratops. That's already a lot. I'm sorry. I'm already like, this is a lot to take in. This is a dinosaur in a wrestling outfit. It's got 2600 attack. It doesn't defend at all. It has 0 defense, and it is a dinosaur effect. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon this once per turn this way. Its quick effect is you can tribute 1 Dino Wrestler monster. That's a thing. Then target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it. You can only use this effect of Dino Wrestler Pankratops once per turn. Okay, so the opponent has more stuff than you. You can have this for free, and you can sacrifice this to kill something.
Or you just attack with it indefinitely until they threaten it, and then when they threaten it, you tribute it and pop something else. You get like amazing, like 3 for 1, 4 for... This card can solo if you go second, and your opponent does not have a way to deal with this. It is incredible how insanely good this card is. And it was a common, and they banned it. Wow. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's... thank you for that. Wow, you have Dino Wrestlers in your game.
We do. We have WWE dinosaurs in our game. Yep.
Anyway, I'm going to show you the rare Delve card.
Oh my God. I think I've seen this before. This is also not okay. Okay, if I remember how this works. This is Dig Through Time. This is 6 and 2 blue, which this might shock you, also does not matter in the slightest, because it has Delve. And then you look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Ban it into the sun. This card, again, I can't believe all this was in the same set. This is, I can see why people love it. Honestly, maybe I need to pick up like standard Cons of Tarkir decks, because this seems like insanely fun to play.
They did put these this whole set on Arena. That's how popular it was. Like they went they went way out of order to go back in time and release a bunch of this.
You can say they dug through time. Ha ha ha.
yeah, they did. Yeah, maybe next time I have you out, I'll just build some Cons of Tarkir Pro decks and we can throw down.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. This, like, just you're convincing me with how crazy some of these cards are. Like this. Aside, whether it's banned or not, please tell me this card got banned. Like, again, Yu-Gi-Oh! This would be broken in an instant. This would get banned so fast. Just playing this card while it was legal, because I'm assuming it got banned, because this card just seems nuts. This must have been so much fun to play. Like, just being able to, you must have felt so good resolving this. And not to mention it's blue, which is all the more reason I think it got banned.
I also, you know what? I'll throw it in there. Cons was also a set where they reprinted the allied fetch lands, which are the lands that you sacrifice to go get another land.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. No wonder everyone liked this
How
set.
You get a free card in your graveyard every turn by playing fetch lands. Yeah, they came back in Cons to help fix your mana so you could play three-color decks.
Crazy. That seems wild.
Oh, yeah. We'll come back. We'll get your final ban predictions at the end. Let me show you a red card from Cons of Tarkir that... Yeah, it's an interesting one. I have feelings about it.
Monastery Swift Spear. This is 1 red for a 1/2 with haste, which already seems very good. And Prowess, which is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Whoa! That seems pretty good. You're kind of convincing me that that Sultai is pretty happening over here. Between the Legend, the Mantis Rider.
You mean Jeskai. You mean Jeskai. But that's
Jeskai.
Okay.
I don't know. I think because they end in eyes, I think I keep conflating the two. Sorry.
Yeah, I got you. You're cool.
This seems very good. This seems like a card that it's like you open this turn 1 and your opponent doesn't have an answer. Like this card is going to literally just wreck you for the whole game. This seems very pushed. I like it. It's cool. It's very Yu-Gi-Oh! Too, because it has haste.
Let's show you. I'm going to show you a green card as well. We're gonna move right through these. We're gonna put pins in all these, and then you're gonna rank your clans and tell me about your predictions in a few. All right, here's a green card from the set that is very recognizable to Magic players.
Collected Company. This is 3 and a green for an instant. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. Put up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Holy shit, that seems nuts. You can do that instant speed, too. You just go like, all right, 4 mana, pass. Your opponent does something. All right, end step, Collected Company, get a bunch of guys, and now they can attack. That seems insane.
Or the opponent attacks you, and then they don't know what they're attacking into.
It's like a combat trick. Yeah, it could be anything. It could be a boat.
Yeah. Could be anything. Could be nothing.
God, you're really convincing me to want to play like Con Standard now. This seems like all these cards seem so cool. Man. This is like Dig Through Time in green, basically. Except it doesn't like, they just come out onto the battlefield, basically. That seems really good. You could I feel like you would just build entire decks around how good this card is. Man, that's a cool effect. Man, that's really cool.
You could hit Savage Knuckleblade.
Oh, yes. Ideal Collected Company target Savage Knuckleblade. It is 3 or less. You're not
Mantis
wrong.
Rider. And Mantis Rider. You could hit 2 Mantis Riders.
Well, you're not. You'd have to play 4 colors for that, though.
Hey, you got the fetch lands? Who knows?
I guess
who knows what you can do.
That's true. That seems really good. That seems really fucking good. Okay, what else you got?
All right, we are moving past Cons of Tarkir into the second set, but don't worry, we only have a few hitters from the next two sets. We focus primarily on Cons because that was the big set. In the second set, a certain dragon arrived on the scene. I am really curious what you think of this card. It is a card that has excited many a mage.
Ugin, the spirit dragon. Ugin. I don't know how to pronounce.
Yep.
I like Ugin. So
Ugin is right. Popular. Eugene is what people like to yell.
Eugene,
when they're
that's
memeing.
hilarious. That's. I think I don't think I had this exact. I think I had like maybe a newer version in one of the decks that we played.
You had the Dragonstorm Tarkir version in a deck.
Gotcha. Because I was like, the name looked familiar. I don't think I ever got to play it, but I think I saw it in the deck when I was like searching through it for like a fetch land or something like that. So the name sort of looked familiar. This is a planeswalker that costs 8 and is colorless, which is cool, with 7 loyalty. +2, Ugin the Spirit Dragon deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So you can play this for 8 and deal 3 to something immediately. Okay. -X, exile each permanent with converted mana cost X or less. That's 1 or more colors. Oh, I get it. That's why it doesn't have any colors. Okay. So you could also play this for 8 and exile everything that has colors. So it's a giant board wipe, basically, for everything, because it's permanent. Okay, and then -10, which would take you 3 turns, because you have to go +2, then +2, you'd be at 11, assuming you don't get, like, hit, and then -10. You gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, then put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay, well, if you resolve that, you just win the game. Like, whatever. Are you like in Disneyland though? Because your opponent's never gonna let this get to 11 unless they just don't have a choice. But by that point, you're probably winning the game anyway.
It is very common to evaluate planeswalkers on the other abilities, not the -10 or whatever the biggest minus is.
It seems very win more if you get to the final ability. I have noticed. It just seems like you already should be winning that game regardless. Dumb question: how easy is it to get loyalty from other sources that aren't the planeswalker itself?
Very hard in this format.
Very hard in this format.
Not normal. Okay. Not normal at all.
I feel like you're just playing this because it's a giant board wipe, basically. Like, you could also just play it to, like, zap stuff with the +2, and that's, like, fine. But I think the main reason you're playing this is you just have a way to just basically reset everything. Because you could also just, like, what could you do? You could go, like, -4, nuke most of the board, and then you still have 3 to like you go like -6 even if you. I guess it depends on like what they have and if they have like haste stuff or like if you have a way to protect it. But it's a cool card. I can see why people get excited for it. It's just like it's very flashy. All of its effects seem very flashy, and it's expensive though. So I guess like the biggest question is like how likely are you to get to 8 like consistently enough? And maybe there are the tools to do that. But I think that's like my biggest concern with this, is that it's expensive. Now, if there's ways to like delve it out, that seems nuts. As
like with your commander?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's free. It's free. Why play Treasure Cruise when you can play this, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'd rather draw 3. But yeah, if there's ways to like lower the cost, I feel like this card is really powerful. But the cost is like the biggest red flag for me for something like this. But it's very exciting. It's very flashy. I like it.
All right, I'm going to show you another card that got printed in This Is Fate Reforged, because apparently they didn't think blue had enough delve spells.
Oh, I'm in.
I don't know if you've seen this one.
Temporal Trespass. Art on this is sick. 8 and 3 blue, which I'm going to take a guess and say it doesn't matter, because it has delve, and then take an...
Take an extra turn after this one. Exile Temporal Trespass. What do you think?
Thank you for finishing for me, because
you look like something got shoved down the wrong throat hole. Like you needed a minute there to recover.
You got to be careful with what you just said there, and that's going to get clipped.
Damn it.
3 mana for an extra turn. It's crazy because as busted as Yu-Gi-Oh is, we do not have like extra turn cards. And honestly, probably for the better, because that like we don't need that in our game. But the fact that like stuff like that is like in your game just at all is just incredible to me. That just seems nuts. Like my Yu-Gi-Oh brain can't comprehend that I could basically for free take an extra turn. You've shown me some take extra turn cards before, but I feel like this is one of the like freest, cheapest ones you could possibly play. Okay. All right. You're doing if you're trying to keep me in Camp Blue, you're doing a great job.
Okay, nice. You're probably still playing Jeskai, I'm guessing, or Sultai.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, you'd have to probably Sultai
cards
for this, just because you need to get the resources for Delve. I feel like Jeskai, it's not as easy to do that from what I'm seeing. I could be wrong, but maybe play a bunch of cheap stuff, but Sultai seems way more fitted for Delve.
You may want to check out Jeskai Ascendancy again.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, there is that.
Ooh. All right. I've got one more cycle. We are moving into Dragons of Tarkir, the last set of the Tarkir block. Okay. And each color combination, but not the classic, not the Tarkir color combinations, but each friendly color pair got a Dragon Lord. So like red-green got a Dragon Lord, green-white got a Dragon Lord.
Did we see this in one of our Commander games by chance?
I think we did. And we are now going to revisit these in Standard. And I'm curious if you think they change your rankings on the clans, or I guess I'm also curious how you would rank these Dragon Lords against each other as to what got played.
Thank you for the PTSD. I already see the one that I'm thinking of. Great. Okay. First up, Dragon Lord Tarkir. This is 5, a red and a green for an 8/8. That's very nicely statted with flying and trample. I'd hope so. It's a dragon. Whenever it enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers your opponent controls. Not gonna lie, that's kind of mid. I was kind of hoping for more, but I could be wrong.
Did you just call Dragon Lord Tarkir mid?
I did, and I would do it again. But let me see what else we're working with. Maybe when I see contextually, maybe the other ones aren't as, flashy. We'll see. This is Dragon Lord Dramoka?
Dramoka is common,
okay.
Yep.
4, a green and a white for a 5/7. It can't be countered. Flying and lifelink. Your opponent can't cast spells during your turn. Your opponent can't cast spells during your turn. So this is, again, the anti-U card, I see.
Yep, sure is.
We have Dragon Lord Colagan, sorry.
I like Colagan. Is Colagan the dragon?
Colagan the dragon. It's great. 4, a black and a red for a 6/5 flying and haste. Other creatures you control have haste. I'm in. Whenever an opponent casts a creature or planeswalker spell with the same name as a card in his or her graveyard, that player loses 10 life. That's funny. That's a really interesting mechanic, especially because a lot of the times you're playing stuff with. It's only creatures or planeswalkers though. I wish it was everything. Because you're playing 4 ofs of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Dragon Lord Ojutai?
Yeah.
Okay. We got one for once. 3, a white and a blue for a 5/4 flyer. It has hexproof as long as it's untapped. Interesting. And then whenever it deals combat damage, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So it's protection and value. I gotta be honest, we saved the best for last here, in my opinion. This is Silumgar, 4, a blue and a black for a 3/5, which sounds pretty crappy, but when you read this effect, it's kind of broken. This one has Death Touch, which is also pretty relevant, as well as flying. And whenever it enters, gain control of target creature or planeswalker for as long as you control this card. And I didn't realize it was also planeswalker, which is also pretty insane. Because I don't think we had planeswalkers in our game. Okay. I definitely think Silumgar is the best of the 5. I don't know why. I just stealing your opponent's stuff just seems really good to me. So I really, and the way that it just took over the game, I feel especially in a standard setting where it's 1v1, this card's even more of a nightmare to deal with. Granted, they get it back if it dies, but they have to actually kill it. But still, I just feel you get so much, you swing the game so heavily in your favor. Here's an interesting question. If I Silumgar your thing, can I attack with it, or does it regain summoning sickness?
It regains summoning sickness. If it has haste, you can attack with it. And if it was untapped when you gained control of it.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's a bit of a downside, but honestly, depending on the way the format is, it may not matter. But, because like in Yu-Gi-Oh!, if we steal stuff, we can just attack right away, and that's a huge difference. But it could, if you have like haste or whatever. If you steal a Mantis Rider, you can hit with that, most notably. All of these just seem like very good value, I feel like. I think it's like one of those instances where it's like not anything like super flashy, but like they're just all very good. So you wanted me to rank the dragons themselves and then in the context of the clans, is that right?
Sure.
I definitely just like Silumgar at the top, because that's just, I feel like, I'm not biased or salty at all, but I think that card is very good.
Amy and Silumgar, name a more iconic duo.
I guess a Tarka's fine. It's expensive, but like it kills stuff when it comes in. It can kill stuff when it comes in. But it's Dramoka. Dramoka's neat because it sort of like floodgates your opponent and like lets you do the thing. But again, like I don't know how narrow that is. The stats are good though. Calagan the Dragon. I'm just gonna call him that, even though I know it's wrong. It just gives all your other stuff haste. I feel like that third effect is like never gonna come up. Because like obviously your opponent can play around it. And sometimes they may not have a choice, but like I feel like at that point you're probably losing the game anyway.
When they cast their third treasure cruise, they're in trouble, right?
Ooh, yeah, it's the third one that gets you.
I'd probably take 10 for a third treasure cruise.
Honestly, I think I would also do. I said if Yu-Gi-Oh! Released like Pot of Greed, where you have to pay like 6,000 life points to draw 2, everyone will play 3 of that card in an instant. So, yeah, I think I'm least impressed with him. So I think he's actually going to go to the bottom, which is not surprising because Mardu seems to be losing in my oh, no, it was like in the middle when we last evaluated, so maybe not. Ojutai is like nice value. This is tough. So I have Silumgar at the top. I think I have Calagan the Dragon at the bottom. And then Ojutai, you have to wait a whole turn before it can actually do the thing. Atarka does it immediately, but it's expensive. And like Dramoka. Dramoka just seems like so narrow in the sense that, again, well, it can't cast spells. It's not even like, that means like everything is safe. That seems pretty good. Because that means you could just like do everything and they can't stop you with like any sort of instant, not even just countering stuff. Just like if they have anything to like zap something or just like do damage. There's so many things that turns off. That could be really good. I think I'm going to go Silumgar at the top. I think I'm going to put Dramoka second.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe. I feel like that could just be so oppressive. The thing with Atarka is like expensive, but it does like immediately impact the board. I think I'm putting Ojutai second from the bottom because I feel like it just takes a while to set up. So I have
number 3 is Atarka.
Yeah, I think I'm going Silumgar, Dramoka, Atarka, Ojutai, Calagan the Dragon. I think that's my order for those.
Okay. Understood. Interesting.
And then,
very interesting.
And then do I need to like bring it all in?
Almost. I've got one more card to show you because if I don't show it to you, it'll be a failure.
It was all leading up to this moment.
It's mostly for the fans, but I think you'll like this card. So we had to not just have Delve on our blue spells, we had to also add it to some legendary creatures in our Sultai color combination. If you look really closely at the art for Dragonlord Silumgar, people love pointing out this little Easter egg. It is actually this character hanging from the necklace that I'm about to show you. This is how do I describe it? Anyway, meet Tasigur.
Tasigur the Golden Fang. 5 and a black, 4/5, legendary creature, human shaman. It has Delve, so you can play it basically for free. Then 2 in either a green or a blue twice, so 4. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. That's interesting. Because you can delve away the stuff you don't want them to give you.
Ooh, yeah.
And then just basically make it, yeah, that's pretty damn good. Even if it's only, wow. Yeah, especially if you pair that with other delve stuff, that seems nuts. That seems really, really good. Do people play this in Commander? I feel like this would be a fun Commander to play with.
This almost made it into your deck.
Oh, did it? I'm kind of disappointed now. This looks fun. This looks fun.
I mean, you run the risk when you run a Tasigur deck in Commander. We were trying to build a Tevel deck, and it becomes too much of a Tasigur deck once you add a Tasigur, because this allows for some really nasty things to happen.
I could my brain's already firing up all the unfun stuff you can do with this. Unfun for my opponents, not for me. But that seems, man, did this get banned too? I could see that getting banned potentially. I feel like that could cause a lot of problems. It's funny because you wouldn't think so, but that could just be too much value.
A 1 mana 4/5 that helps you control your graveyard.
Seems pretty good to me. I don't know, buddy.
Tutor for 4 mana.
Seems pretty good to me. Seems pretty good to me.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Holding out on all the good stuff in Sultai for me. Very disappointing.
I mean, I need you to know. We
need more videos to make. That's really it.
It really is. All right, it's time for the retrospective. You've seen a lot of the key players, not all of them. There's a cycle of charms that would require you to read a lot of words for a lot of hours. But
I mean, I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I already do that anyway.
Each charm has 3 modes on it, and you choose the mode that works, and it costs the color combination that you're in. So Abzan charm has draw 2 cards, or lose 2 life, put 2 counters on a thing, or exile target thing that's 3 or more. So every color has decent access to utility pieces like removal and things like that. There's also a cycle of commands that are various amounts of mana, but also have 3 options on them, and it's usually an aggressive option, a controlling option, and a mid-range option is how you describe them. So every color combination, assume they have access to decent interaction and removal. All right. And I didn't have you rate all those because that would take just a long time, and I think honestly what it would add to the video would be very little compared to the amount of reading. So now that you've seen a good amount of cards, let's rank our cons as to how you think they performed in competitive play with kind of more of a view of the format. And I want to know your final thoughts on what, if anything, got banned.
I'm still in the camp of Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time got banned. There's no way those cards are okay. There's no shot those cards could be allowed for very long. So I think those are the 2 that I automatically gravitated towards. Maybe Temporal Trespass, but I don't know. I feel like I'd rather just I feel like at that point that's just a win more card. If you're drawing a million cards off these other ones, you're gonna win anyway. I feel like. So, and maybe Tasker. Honestly, I can see Tasker getting banned too. I think so. Those are my ban picks. So I'll get those out of the way now.
Okay.
Collected Company seems like it could be so good though, but it could be just a very strong pushed card that's not ban worthy. So that one I'm kind of on the edge with. Those are the only ones I feel like I had visceral reactions to. Everything else seems kind of fine. So I'll go with that for the bans. In terms of ranking, I definitely still think Temur and Mardu are the worst from what I've seen. They just I don't know. I feel like they just don't have it compared to the other ones. They just seem like a league behind, in my opinion. So I think I'd put God, how would I rank these? I still think I'd put Teamer last, Mardu second to last. So those are out of the way. You're showing me like Tasigur for Sultai, which is very exciting. That makes me want to bump that up a bit. Also, you could play Silumgar in Sultai, which is quite strong. And you could play all the broken draw cards that I presume are banned in Sultai. But you could also play them in Jeskai too, which is relevant. Abzan seems very good, though. I mean, Abzan just seems like the very efficient of the bunch. Like, it has... You can play the Collected Company. Dromoka seems just very good. Not like anything super flashy, but just like a very strong card. The Ascendancy seems fine. Anafenza seems great. Like, they all just seem good, but not like... Siege Rhino seems quite good, too. They all seem good. So, like... I kind of think I'm going to put... I think I'm going to put Abzan third. And the reason for that is because Sultai and Jeskai have access to the broken draw cards, so I think I want to put them first and second. I'm so biased because, like, I like Sultai just from playing with you and everything. But a lot of the Jeskai stuff seems really crazy. God, that's tough. That is tough. I think Ojutai would be in Jeskai. Ojutai was whatever, but I can play Silumgar in Sultai. I think I'm going to keep Jeskai as 1, and I'll put Sultai as 2. So Jeskai, Sultai, Abzan, Mardu, Teamer. I think that's my final ranking based off of this vacuum analysis we have here.
Okay. Message received. It's time for my reveal retrospective / documentary wrap up. Where are they now and what happened to them for all of
now
these
you just get to drink tea
wonderful
for 10
cards. Yep. Feel free to interrupt if you have questions or anything, but
Sure.
I'm going to pop off a little bit now on Cons of Tarkir. So, a lot of like why people love something is usually has to do with where they've been. Cons of Tarkir came after a very long format built around Theros, which was a set like that really leaned into a mechanic called Devotion, which paid you off for the amount of mana symbols of the same color you had on the field at a time.
You had a land when we played that did that, didn't you?
Nykthos, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, I think after I stopped, I think I destroyed your throne, and I think you drew into a Nykthos off of the Rhystic study, and that, like, fixed your mana problem pretty well, if I recall.
Nykthos, really good card in that format. Insane card in that format. Nykthos, but what is notable about that format is it was very stale for a long time because it rewarded monocolor deck building, and in monocolor deck building, only certain colors were competitive, and the cards that could go in those decks felt very limited. So it was a very limited-ish, no joke on sealed deck or anything, format. And it felt very narrow. Mono black Devotion fought mono blue Devotion for what felt like forever is kind of how it went.
You were almost like handicapping yourself if you didn't play a mono deck, which just made wasn't a lot of like diversity within the format, it seems like.
Yep. So then Cons comes out, and suddenly you're introduced to the fetch lands and these 3-color powerful cards, and all of a sudden you can play all these colors, which just gives you so many more options for deck building to solve the various problems that come up. So right away at Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir, with this rotation now being a smaller format that had a lot of these 3-color cards, these decks took off. It's not as common nowadays that a new set comes out and immediately all the decks are like playing that set. But for Cons of Tarkir, its format is huge, but at the time, Cons of Tarkir just flew to the top. And at Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir, this is before the release of Fate Reforged and Dragons of Tarkir, the most played deck in the top 8 was Jeskai. Jeskai was the most played deck in the top 8. Yes. Starring the great and powerful Mantis Rider.
Yes! We're riding Mantises!
Yes. The decks were built in a variety of ways. Jeskai was very flexible. You could go in control-y angles and run counter spells, or you could go very aggressive and run Monastery Swiftspear and some other prowess creatures, and then you use your dig through times and your treasure cruises to also get +1/+1 bonuses on those.
That's insane. That's so good.
Yeah.
An aggro deck that you can refuel your resources like that efficiently, that just seems nuts. Yeah.
Yep. You could build it in so many ways. It wasn't even called Jeskai Midrange. It wasn't called Jeskai Prowess. It wasn't called Jeskai Aggro. It wasn't called Jeskai Control. It was called Jeskai Wins. That was the name for like the combined all of the Jeskai decks. Jeskai Wins. But Jeskai did not win the Pro Tour.
Oh. Okay.
Although making it all the way to the finals, it did lose in the end to Arilax and the second most played con, which was Abzan.
Really? Okay. I can see it.
And the biggest, honestly, the more we go down the Abzan rabbit hole over the next few years of Standard, the more you just realize Siege Rhino is a beast. Siege Rhino is an absolute motherfucking machine. 100%. In fact, a very popular tweet meme of its time, I'm going to share with you here in the chat, and then we'll put it on the screen. What do you see in this screenshot of Pro Tour coverage? Describe for the listeners.
Well, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, looks like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 copies of Siege Rhino on the field.
Which is not exactly legal. This was a very popular meme of the time because, it's just a Siege Rhino like photoshopped over all the cards. Yeah. You can even see the top of the library because there was a card called Courser of Krufix that required players to play with their top card revealed. That was also very popular in Abzan. And like you could play lands from the top if you had a land on top of your library. That's why your top card would be revealed. So that's why even the top card of the deck is Siege Rhino. The graveyard is Siege Rhino because people described it as this is the format. Slamming Siege Rhinos off of each other. That's right. It was that good. It was impossible. It was very hard to race. If somebody had one Rhino, you could no longer attack well on the ground and you were behind on the race. If they had two Rhinos, it was backbreaking. It felt like you were so far behind. You lost the race. And while there was decent removal among all the colors, that 5th point of toughness on Siege Rhino came up so often as there were a lot of spells that did 4 damage to a thing. There were a lot of cards that put a creature on top of your deck to kind of reset it. But you just cast Rhino again, and you gain the life, and you drain them again, and you're not that much better off in the race.
That's so interesting.
Abzan rose to be the color to beat for a very long time. And some would say for the entirety of its legality in the format. Cards cards like Dig Through Time, cards like Treasure Cruise, times like Temporal Trespass, all of them very, very good. Tasigur, some of the openings you could hit once Tasigur was introduced to the format. I played Friday Night Magic, not the height of competitive Magic at any point, but it was the first time I ever played with a Jeskai Wins deck that splashed black for Tasigur. And on turn 3, I think I had a Tasigur and like another creature, and I had delved something else. I might have taken a Treasure Cruise. Like, it was insane. I remember looking down, and I actually forgot that I could play the Tasigur, because all I had to do was like sack another fetch land, and I could delve it away, 1 mana, 4/5. Like, it was wild how good that deck was, and yet a curve of like Anafenza to Siege Rhino could light it up. It was hard to remove. And your stuff going to the graveyard, you couldn't delve if an Anafenza hit the battlefield. So that line of text on Anafenza turned out to be huge, not for reanimating stuff out of the graveyard, but for using the delve abilities, which kept Abzan in the game. And Abzan, I think throughout, people will remember that as Abzan was the best and Siege Rhino was a menace. But that didn't mean other cards didn't matter. There were some really good ones. In the actual World Championship that included these Tarkir cards, the eventual winner beating Abzan in the finals was Sidisi Whip, a deck called Sidisi Whip.
Let's go!
Sultai Graveyard that used a card called Whip of Erebos that gave all of its creatures lifelink and could bring creatures out of the graveyard. So it was able to like hang in there with the life gain and actually use all that graveyard shenanigans that you learned to love so much. So it wasn't a common deck. Well, I guess it depends how you define by common. Sultai was probably the third or fourth most played deck for most of this time period, but it did win Worlds, which maybe some people knew something that other people didn't.
Sure. That's really cool. I gotta say, I think, and I don't know if this is just my current point in life now. I don't know if I would have. When was this set, or this block rather, like when was this legal? Like when was this happening in real time? What year?
I just had that pulled up too. And then I forgot it because I'm old. 2014. Fall of 2014 through fall of 2016 was the cons era.
Okay, it's hard for me to say because obviously that was like 10 years ago, and that's when I just started YouTube, which is wild to think. But I feel like right now, if someone had introduced me to Magic and like this is what was going on, I probably would have been hooked like 100%. Because I don't know why, it's just like seeing all these cards and the way that they all just like work together and everything, like the neurons were firing the whole time. This was really cool. This was very well done. Kudos to you.
Thank you. I'm going to catch up on a few more of these awesome cards and kind of a where are they now and what happened to them. Of the Ascendancies, almost none were played outside of Commander except for one. One Ascendancy actually did such degenerate things in the standard format that they wanted it banned. Do you want to take a shot at which one?
I would go with either Abzan or Jeskai. Nah, Abzan doesn't seem that. Maybe the Jeskai one?
It is the Jeskai one.
Okay, yeah.
Jeskai
like of the five,
Ascendancy.
this seems the most abusable. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This fueled a combo deck literally named a Jeskai Ascendancy or Ascendancy combo.
Oh, really?
That's how important it was to the deck.
Wow.
The idea was that you got out creatures. You played green as well as these other colors. So it was a 4-color combo deck. You played green so that it had creatures that tap for mana. So every time you cast something, you untap those creatures. And of course, it uses Treasure Cruise Dig Through Time to use the graveyard to get to refuel, and eventually cast a spell called Retraction Helix that lets you, whenever you tap a creature, it gives the creature the ability that you can tap that creature to make something else return to owner's hand, and you would bounce back to your hand a spell that let you draw a card when you cast it. And anyway, if you get enough triggers, your creatures are arbitrarily huge because they're gaining +1/+1 each time, and so if you cast 20 spells and have unsummoning sick creatures, you attack with these and opponent dies. So it was a win con in and of itself, and people did hate it. Some people did ask for it to be banned.
I can see that.
And of course, they also lobbied for many other things to be banned. Let's talk about some of them. Monastery Swiftspear went on to be one of the best 1-mana red creatures of all time. It's legal in current standard and is played in current standard. It is beloved by red mages and hated by everybody else. It is easily one of the most iconic starts in Magic aggro. Turn 1 Monastery Swiftspear. It works in Modern, it works in Pioneer, it works in Standard, it works everywhere. It's a very good card. People love it. Never talked to banning it. But man, I wish they would, because I'd like to at least see something different in my gameplay someday. Ugin the Spirit Dragon is a hated card in Commander. People absolutely hate this card, and it's banned. People don't like you
doing stuff to their things.
It's banned in Brawl, and I have no idea why. Brawl is 1v1 Commander on Arena. I don't know how to explain that. But this deck was a finishing centerpiece of a deck that went on to actually be very good, the control deck of the format, called Esper Dragons. Esper Dragons featured your boy, Dragonlord Silumgar.
Hell yeah.
But Dragonlord Silumgar was not the key cornerstone of Esper Dragons. A different dragon was, and that dragon was Dragonlord Ojutai.
Really?
Something you may have missed.
Oh, you were waiting to say that. You were waiting to say that.
Is that when Dragonlord Ojutai, when you cast it, being untapped means you get that turn of Hexproof, but then on your next turn, your mana is open. So if you are a counterspell player and you go to attack and the opponent held up mana to stop Dragon Lord Ojutai from hitting them, you now have counter magic available to protect Ojutai. And then when you hit them, you often find another counter spell with the trigger, and putting the opponent in a bit of a lock. A little bit of a lock. Yep. And it's absolutely miserable, honestly, to try to be like, well, should I hold up mana to try to interact with this dragon or not? It's so bad if it hits me, but I might end up holding up my mana and getting nothing for it. So
I'm sorry, Dragon Lord Ojutai. I was not familiar with your game.
I wanted to do that so bad.
I bet. I could hear it in your voice when you said it.
Collected Company would not have a large impact in Standard for a few years, but over time, people started to build decks around Collected Company that included nothing else but 3-mana value creatures. And as the format got bigger, Collected Company got stronger. And at multiple points in the format, Collected Company was an absolute threat, and some people did ask for it to be banned. It continues to see play in Historic, and it continues to see play in a number of other formats. It's always a contender of a deck because the card's power output is so much higher than the rest of the deck. It's a legit power spike card that is beloved by the people who love it. Only held back by the fact that sometimes you whiff.
You whiff. You whiff.
So sad.
Let's go gambling.
And now let's get to the Delve cards. The big where are they now? Treasure freaking Cruise. Treasure Cruise at common. What on earth were they thinking? The world will never know. Treasure Cruise has been, it's gone through a lot. It's been banned in Modern. It's been banned in Legacy. It's been banned in Vintage. It's been banned in Pauper, which is the all commons format.
I would hope so.
The card has experienced, has had to be nerfed time and time again. And they keep on trying, like they reprint into various formats. Like they want it to be legal in Pioneer. Will it stay legal in Pioneer? Who knows? They banned fetch lands in Pioneer to try to make it more balanced.
That's so funny.
It's still a problem. Dig Through Time. Let's talk about Dig Through Time. Dig Through Time is not as good as Treasure Cruise. That is a fact, but still an amazing card, and it's been banned in Legacy.
Yes!
Banned in Modern. Banned in Modern. Banned in Vintage. It's been banned or restricted in Vintage, rather. It has been hit with multiple waves of legality limitations as well. Temporal Trespass of all of them is not as good. It does see play. Right now it's played in Historic and Pioneer Phoenix, I believe, and hasn't been banned nearly as often or restricted nearly as often. In fact, it hasn't, according to my quick research, half-ass internet research, it hasn't hit the ban list in any format. And I believe it is the difference. 3 mana is significantly more than 1, 3 times as much, you would say. And Delve 8 is significantly more than 6 or 7. So Temporal Trespass, not nearly the power level of the other two. Despite all of that, in Standard, in the beloved Khans of Tarkir Standard era, not a single one of these cards were ever banned.
That's insane. That's wild. Oh my God. I mean, I guess to an extent, you guys have rotating formats, so eventually these cards would have gotten rotated out. So I imagine people might have been, by the end of this format, you know, praising the fact that they don't have to get treasure cruised or anything again. But that's crazy. I would not have expected that, but, you know, that's Magic.
It was Magic at the time, and it's honestly, to have such powerful cards and a format that's revered as balanced. Like, this is known as a balanced format. That's how people remember this, which is amazing. And it is the gold standard, I would say, for design. Like, people look at this as a high point in Magic design. Everything really flowed, and there's a lot of good things to learn from it. And it's why I was really excited to make this very nostalgic video with you.
Yeah. This is great. This is awesome.
I can entice you into some Khans of Tarkir throwdowns maybe at some point.
Maybe. You're selling me a pretty good story here, so I'm in. This looks great.
Thank you for listening to the CovertGoBlue podcast. Remember to check out the sponsors of our video. We have boot.dev, link in description, and use the promo code CGBpod at Cool Stuff Inc. to let them know that you listen to the podcast. And thank you to our guest Simo, who you can find on YouTube doing various Yu-Gi-Oh things, including torturing me with various Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And on behalf of both of us, I'll say thank you for staying till the end. That's the best thing you can do to support the show. And as always, you're cool.